Makers to approve as soon as today a package of bills that creates a special election in November. Voters would decide whether California should redraw its congressional map, shifting 5 Republican seats to Democrats. We've been asking you all morning if you support changing California's congressional maps. Interesting, these numbers really have changed very slightly over the past couple of hours. 55% of you say yes, 45% say no. You can vote by scanning the QR code at the top right of your screen or when you're at ktvu.com/vote.
More states are beginning the school year with new cell phone policies. 33 states now have laws or policies concerning phones in class, but every state is handling it differently. In some states, gadgets are forbidden through the entire school day, while others limit them only during class time. Some public health experts say it might be harder to enforce bans if there's chances for kids to still use phones on campus in some capacity.
With the older kids, somehow they're getting access to it, and it puts more pressure on the teacher.
I don't like it because I do use my phone for the class, and sometimes we do like activities in the phone, and it's gonna be so hard this year.
I kind of like it. Honestly, I feel like it's given teachers a chance to be more direct with their class as a whole.
California's rules force districts to develop a plan to deal with phones by next year, though many districts are already limiting phones for this school year.
This weekend's Bay FC match at Oracle Park is shaping up to break records. The team is announcing it's sold more than 35,000 tickets for Saturday's game against the Washington Spirit. That's more tickets sold than the highest attended game in National Women's Soccer League history. The league's commissioner says this is a landmark moment, not just for Bay FC or the NWSL, but for the future of women's professional sports in the United States. Saturday's match starts at 1 p.m.
Very exciting. Did your girls play soccer when they were younger?
They did. You know, I got them to try soccer.
Okay.
They didn't connect with that so much. They played for a little while.
Yeah,
they really liked basketball.
That's great. Well, and I think Dad does too.
Yes.
Am I right? So there's a little bit of that. Did you grow up playing soccer?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Football. Yeah.
I was on the Strawberry Shortcakes in Livermore, and it was a fierce soccer team. I was 7 years old or whatever.
Well, that name like that, yeah, of course. It's very scary. All right. Quick reminder, you can stream KTVU News anytime. Download the Fox Local app by scanning the QR code to see it there on the screen, or download it for your smart television. Scan the QR code, search for KTVU there. Stay tuned for Take 2 coming up next. We're going to dive into more of the fire in San Rafael, where someone actually had to jump into a canal behind this apartment building to escape the flame. Welcome to Take Two on this Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're not following along, you can follow along and comment on our YouTube page. Just go to KTVU.com or actually go to YouTube and look for the KTVU page there, and you'll be able to comment and ask questions. Andre Senior here, Garcia Michaelian, and we also have Sal Castaneda. We're, of course, following that big fire that happened up in San Rafael, right along Canal Street, that displaced 50 residents, forcing some of them to jump into a canal behind this apartment building to escape the flames. Several people were injured, many of them minor, but some are serious. At least one is serious. James Torres, he has been on the scene there all morning long, gathering the latest information. James, we can still see some smoke right behind you on the scene. Tell us a bit more about what you can tell us about what's happening there now.
Yeah, if you'd followed us during our broadcast on Mornings on 2, especially during the 9 o'clock hour, we've shown you what the scene has looked like several times. But here is the benefit of having something like Take Two, where we can take you a little closer now. This is the first chance we've actually had to see, got to see this scene from this angle. You can see just how gutted some of these units are. You can see just how burned this building is. And firefighters still spraying just as much water as possible because there are still small fires that are reigniting. This all happened at about 5:30 this morning. We're told there are about 18 to 20 units in this apartment building. 50 people were displaced. About a total of 8 people were hurt. You mentioned someone reported who had jumped out of the second story balcony into a canal that's on the back side of the building. The firefighters did confirm that detail to us. They say that person was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. They are expected to recover. They are still, of course, working with some of the other people who have been hurt and keeping an eye on their recoveries and their injuries as well. This is a really terrifying start for some of the people who live in this area. Not even just the apartment complex itself, but some of the apartments next door and adjacent to the one that burned. We talked to one girl who said that it was about 5:30, 5:45 this morning. Her father came in banging on the door, telling her to wake up. Didn't really tell her why, said we had to get out. They get out, and when she walks out, she sees the enormous flames burning the complex right next to her. She says she could feel the heat. Of course, that would freak anyone out at about 5 o'clock this morning, let alone any time. But surely when you're just waking up. And then they moved across the street, joining dozens of other people who are just watching the building burn and hoping their building doesn't catch fire, while also trying to figure out what it is they need to do next. The fire department did tell us that an ember flew away from this fire, ended up burning another property next door. Firefighters were able to take care of that pretty quickly. Now, evacuations happened almost immediately. They understood just how serious the fire was going to be. This complex in this area, very heavy on Spanish speaking, so firefighters and the police department were equipped on hand with bilingual law enforcement officers, so they were able to speak to anyone they needed to speak to, both in English and in Spanish, telling them the severity of the situation and then getting them to safety. They say that was incredibly efficient, and they're proud of the work that some of the officers did on the scene here. And now they've kept the fire contained to just the building. It's still igniting quite a few times. We've seen it here since the time we've been here. It's not spreading anymore, so that's good news. But now it's just a matter of completely extinguishing it and then making sure that this building at some point doesn't collapse, and then making sure it's safe enough for firefighters to go in, continue on with their investigation, and then try to ultimately find out how this all started.
James, we heard officials, I think right around 8:30 when we took that news conference live, say that the city was working on setting up essentially a temporary shelter or a center for residents to go to. It's at the Borough Community Center there in the Canal District. I can't imagine you've had a chance to go, but what can you tell us about the help now available to all those who can't go back home?
Yeah, I mean, 50 people, that's a lot of people. That's the number that is displaced from just the apartment alone, let alone some of the other people who were evacuated from the nearby apartments. The people who need that immediate assistance, meaning a change of clothes, probably food, and more than anything, a place to stay tonight and for the unforeseeable future. They will be at the community center. That's not too far from here. They're meeting with city services, learning what resources are available to them. They're also meeting with the Red Cross. And in fact, we actually heard from one of the executive directors of emergency services for the fire department saying If you are feeling like you want to donate, you can do that through the form of cash and gift cards. They're saying don't donate anything beyond that just yet because they are still trying to understand the needs of some of the people who live here, i.e. clothing for maybe what age of children, adults. They want to get some of those details lined out first before they put out a more broad call for donations and help.
James, I heard, and we also, when we were following the fire at the assignment desk, we see that there are multiple agencies. I saw Larkspur there, not only San Rafael, but some of the other cities nearby sent their units. Novato sent engines. So the chief or whoever was speaking said, we have this already. There was no, it was seamless, in other words. Do you still see a lot of equipment there from other cities nearby?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. It has barely changed since we first got here at about 7:30 this morning. It's, just a few minutes after 10 o'clock now. The fire engines are still here. I mean, the one you're seeing right now with the ladder that is pouring water into the building, that hasn't moved an inch, I think, since firefighters first got here. I think some of the mutual aid trucks, they're starting to break down a little bit because it seems like San Rafael has a good handle on it. They really got the mutual aid in here because they knew they had to evacuate so many buildings. So really the initial thought was, let's get people to safety first, and then we can work on getting rid of the fire. So the extra personnel and the extra hands, that was really to communicate to get people away from the burning building, away from the flames, get them across the street to safety. Once they're safe, then the firefighters can move in and start working on the fire, which they are still doing at this point.
I mean, something in there, must be fueling this. I mean, to see that much smoke, we're talking about since 5:30 this morning, and now we're going on to 10 minutes after 10 right now, and you can see that much smoke in the area, and they continue to douse that area with so much water. James, the 500 and 600 blocks of Canal Street closed. The police department and the fire department said those are going to be closed, and there's some intersecting streets that pass through that are also going to be closed. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, road closures all around the area here. It makes it really hard to kind of navigate. Not to mention, power is out for a good stretch of this block, too. Not just for the apartments affected, not just for the apartments across the street that aren't necessarily affected, but also some nearby businesses, too. I mean, there's some coffee shops here, some stores. Yeah. They will be feeling the effects of this fire, too, not in the form of damage, but certainly in the form of power outages. You mentioned, you mentioned a point earlier about the length of the fire, how long it's burning.
Yeah, since 5:30,
and the size of it, too. Mm-hmm. There was a question that we had asked the deputy fire chief. We had a chance to speak with them at about 8:30 this morning. There were residents who had reported hearing big pops, and oftentimes you hear glass shattering, too. The fire chief essentially told us that can oftentimes be attributed to lack of or faulty wiring, faulty electricity. That's something they have to take care of when they first get here. When you respond to a fire, especially something in a complex, you have to immediately shut off the electricity because that can only cause more problems if you're not safe with that. So there might be some speculation that there may have been some poor wiring, some electrical issues. That's not coming from the fire department just yet. The fire chief did tell us that popping is usually the result of electricity not working the way it should, but he stopped short of saying that was actually the cause of the fire. We may not know that for quite some time.
I mean, they're still dousing the flames. It's impossible to know at this point. I do want to ask you about kind of the makeup of the people that are involved here. Are we talking about a lot of children, a lot of families? Is that who lived in this apartment? I want folks to understand who this is affecting right now.
I don't think there are a lot of families. There are certainly some. We definitely have seen children who were waiting on the sidelines here, too, and walking about and keeping an eye on the building as well. So there is a makeup of some families. There's a makeup of some, people who just live in some of these units themselves. There was one man I spoke to who said that he was the site manager, so he was immediately knocking on doors and trying to get people out. And he says that everyone he talks with, he has a great relationship with all his neighbors. That's kind of what it's like around here. So it would make perfect sense that everyone was trying to help each other out and get them to safety as quickly as they can.
And James, you know, we have to underscore the fact that this fire started when it was dark outside. You talk with people who woke up to either, you know, the sound of a siren, the smell of smoke, the sight of flames, and, you know, we all think we know what to do when a fire starts.
No, when you
talked to someone who actually did it, you know, in the middle of the night, this, you know, crazy wake-up call. Kind of tell me a little bit more about what this gentleman, Martin Hansen, told you earlier.
Yeah, and it's not even just him, you know, it's a number of other people who mentioned that this is always serving a reminder, and this is also coming from people who don't directly live in the building, who live across the street and in other areas that were a little safer of a distance away. And it always, when you see stories like this, let alone seeing it with your own eyes in person, it always reminds you to have that evacuation plan, that go bag, and the understanding of what you need to do when you're in some sort of emergency situation. One of the first girls that I spoke to, a younger girl, who said that her father was banging on the door. She said that she owes a big thank you to her parents for knowing what the plan was and executing it to a point that they could be at a safe space.
James, I want to play some sound of the gentleman that you and Garcia were talking about just a moment ago. Ken, in the control room, if you can let viewers see what we were talking about and hear what we were talking about.
The water side of the building, so a lot of people had to jump into the water. I thought it was fighting or tumbling, people running down the stairs, and someone was running through yelling something in Spanish.
On either side, cut off power to the block.
All right, so you heard from that person there who's describing what they saw in the early morning hours. A pretty scary situation, and for the residents outside watching this happen, wondering what's going on with their neighbors. James Torres reporting for us live in San Rafael this afternoon. I know you have to go back on scene and continue to gather more information for our new newscast, but we appreciate you taking a few minutes out with us. Thank you so much. Yeah. All right. Andre, Garcia, Sal, we'll all be back here in just a few minutes. We're going to talk about redistricting. A big vote happening today in Texas and in the state capitol. Greg Lee's up there, but we're going to talk to Ali Rasmus. She's reporting on it, too. We're going to have that coming up on Take Two right after this. Welcome back to Take Two. Andre Cini here, along with Gassia Michaelian. Sal had to take off to go work on some zip trip stuff because we're going to be in Sausalito next week. But we want to talk a little bit redistricting right now. Today's expected to be a contentious day with state lawmakers. This is a day that they're going to be voting on a redistricting map to counter Texas, which is redrawing its map. It's a little bit more complicated doing it here because it will go to voters in November. Ali Rasmus, she joins us live now. Ali, you've been reporting on the story today. Greg Lee is up in the Assembly. I just talked to him just a few minutes ago, sitting in on getting ready for that vote. What can you tell us about what's happening here in California?
Well, as you mentioned, Andre, today, California lawmakers in Sacramento are expected to vote and approve a series of 3 bills. And once these bills are passed, then that paves the way for California voters to vote on a ballot initiative in the special election this November. The question that ballot initiative will ask voters is, do you approve of the idea and of drawing these congressional maps mid-decade, which isn't usually the case, and having Democratic leaders draw those maps to favor Democrats so that theoretically California can put about 5 additional Democrats, send 5 additional Democrats to U.S. Congress after next year's midterm elections. California is doing this, as we know, according to the governor, to counter and offset what Texas has done. Texas Republicans in the state legislature there last night approved congressionally redrawn maps that favor Republicans. The idea being they're going to send another 5 Republicans to the House after the midterm. So California Governor Gavin Newsom has said many times, quote, we have to fight fire with fire. We're going to counter that GOP Texas Republican effort with our own effort here in California. The difference, though, is in California, we have this nonpartisan voting commission that's been in place for well over a decade. Voters approved it, I think it was 2009 when they did. And usually that nonpartisan group is in charge of redrawing the congressional maps after the U.S. Census every 10 years. So in order to have this special mid-decade Democratic favored partisan redistricting that Democrats want to approve, California voters have to sign off on that. Now, I talked to a number of voters in downtown Burlingame this morning. One woman I talked to, it was interesting. She pointed out, at first, I did not agree with this idea, she said, but she said, once I learned that this was temporary, that the nonpartisan voting commission would be part of this again, in I think it's 3 to 4 years. Once I learned it was temporary, then I was okay with this idea. So we did find some people who said they don't like the idea, others who said that they don't know what they're going to do because just from a principle standpoint, they don't like the idea of playing politics, being hyper partisan with something as important as redistricting and seats in Congress. But at the same time, they recognize that California is doing this in reaction to the hyperpartisanship in Texas. So polls are kind of different. Polls say different things, but the latest Axios poll showed that about close to 60% of California voters say they would approve this ballot initiative.
Let's hear really quickly from the gentleman you were talking about just a moment ago, Ken, in the control room, if you could play that for us.
Temporarily, sure, why not?
They got to do something. I mean, it doesn't even matter with a lot of things. It's just you got to fight fire with fire.
I do have an issue with it. I mean, I think that, people should leave everything alone. Let's not change it.
I haven't really thought through whether I'd approve it or not. I think what's happening is, it represents the fractures that are happening in the United States. It's not, reassuring at all. So I don't know what I'm going to vote.
Of course, it's early on. I mean, Ali Rasmus, we can assume we're going to see more of what we've already seen, a lot of this issue playing out on social media.
And I think most political analysts will tell you, we've had a number of guests on our weekend morning show talking about this issue. They will tell you that expect a lot of money to be poured into this issue on both sides. Anytime there's a ballot initiative, a controversial ballot initiative, certainly something as controversial as this, you get a lot of PACs, political action committees, a lot of deep-pocketed donors wanting to weigh in, and this should be no exception. So I think in the next couple of months, we're going to start seeing a lot of ads for and against this ballot measure.
So we've had over the last day or so, the Supreme Court of California blocked an effort by GOP, the Republicans here in California, to block this redistricting effort. So that development happened yesterday. We also had the endorsement of former President Barack Obama. He's saying that he called this, quote, smart and measured in a social media post about this. And then we also have Latifah Simon, who is a congresswoman. And Ken, I think we have her sound. If it's ready to go, I'd like to play it for the viewers who are watching.
The endorsements I am looking for is the mother who runs the laundromat at the corner and the babysitter and the nurse. Those are the folks in California that I'm going to be working to convince that this is the right thing to do.
California voters voted to take the gerrymandering and redistricting process out of the politicians' hands. And so here we are, back to the future.
That was Congresswoman Latifah Simon speaking at a town hall meeting on redistricting in Albany last night. Allie, it's interesting to note here, the California redistricting poll that you mentioned a moment ago, we have it up on the screen so folks can see it here. It says 57% of California voters support the proposal, 35% oppose it, and 8% remain undecided. Axio published it, but they also pointed out that this most notably is from Newsom's pollster, David Binder, and we played that soundbite a moment ago of people still aren't sure, so it's interesting that this is from the governor's pollster, so we still have to look out over the next few months to see how California voters really are going to view this and if we get any clues to what will happen in November, right?
There's going to be a number of polls coming out about this pretty much weekly. Last night, there was a poll, a national poll, granted not specific to California voters, but a national poll by Politico and UC Berkeley that found the breakdown in support kind of among the same lines. About 68% of Democrats, national Democrats, say they support this idea. That's in keeping with what you mentioned in terms of former President Obama supporting this, other Democratic Party leaders supporting this. Notably, one of the opponents of this idea is former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger here in California. He was a governor when the idea of this nonpartisan voting commission was first introduced. He is not known as a big supporter of President Trump by any means, but he has nonetheless come out and said Californians should not vote to approve this.
Wow. So we have people on both sides of the issues. Former presidents normally lay a little low. Former governors, you'll hear somewhat what they have to say. So it's interesting to see former California governor come out to speak out against this. And then President Obama speaking out in support of this idea. So, it's something that we're gonna watch and see what develops and see what the vote result will be today, because in Texas, as we reported on our newscast earlier this week, those Democrats that had been gone from the state of Texas to avoid voting on the redistricting map, they have since returned to Texas, to Austin, and they're going to be participating in the vote that's going to be happening today. They convene at 9 a.m. or convened at 9 a.m. there. Our assembly convened at 9 a.m. here as well. So in Texas, they have enough Republicans to approve it, but we'll see what the final outcome is there, and what the final outcome is here as well. Partisan issue all the way around in both states. Two of the most populous states in the country are dealing with this. Allie, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And we're going to take a quick break and come back right after this with what most Americans, the average salary that most Americans think they are comfortable with making to live a nice, comfortable life. That's coming up after this. This is like a good poll, right? This latest one says $74,000 is the perfect salary for Americans. This new survey showed. And it said here, half of respondents feel their current pay does not support their desired lifestyle. So to break down this a little bit more for you, we only have a few minutes left, I'll tell you what it says. 1 in 5 said they'd need a six-figure income, which you obviously need here in the Bay Area. And I tried looking up the equivalent to what that number is, 74,000, but I couldn't find, you know, what that equates to
Are
in
you
the Bay
thinking
Area.
about like hopes and wishes? Or I do have the number for the median household income in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Well, I'm looking for like what $74,000 is what a year is what most Americans think is a perfect salary.
I see.
Obviously, here in the Bay Area, that would have to be a higher number. Yes. I was trying to find the equivalent to that number, $74,000 here. Yeah. I didn't have one, but you said the average household income here is what?
Right. The average household in the Bay Area is $148,000. The Chronicle just did a story, and they are putting the number of the, you know, to be rich. They put the number at above $760,000, which is, you know, I can't even. What does that look like?
We're supposed to get that kind of money. All right. Thanks for watching Take Two. We'll see you again at noon.
Crack open a cold one. We're toasting to everything from sizzling summer sips to expert wine tips for special occasions. Sal's got your glass filled to the brim.
I'm mixing, tasting, and pouring my way through some of the Bay Area's best beverages.
Do you want to shake it? Sure.
Plus, a cheers to local makers and margarita lovers alike. Get cooking with Sal starts now.
Hello, everyone. On this episode